Beneath by Roland Smith, a First Chapter Friday read aloud with the word nerd. Today, as you listen, watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down word by word and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Hi, my name is Amanda Zeba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday. This week, I'm going to be reading to you the first several pages of Beneath by Roland Smith. If you're looking for a book that is a little unique, a little off the beaten path, and full of suspense, you are going to love this book. I pulled this copy from my former middle school library. You can see it is well loved, and for good reason. Let me read you the back so you know what this book is about. Pat O'Toole has always idolized his older brother Coop. Coop is different. He doesn't talk on the phone, doesn't use email, and doesn't have friends. He's never really cared for anything but the thrill of being underground. And for Pat, of course. So it's no surprise to anyone that after a huge fight with their parents, Coop runs away. 1 year later, Pat receives a package containing a digital voice recorder and a cryptic message from his brother. He follows the clues to New York City and soon discovers that Coop has joined the Community, a society living beneath the streets. Now it's up to Pat to find his brother and bring him home. When I read this book aloud to my middle school students, they begged me for just another chapter. And the chapters in these books, in this book, are so short, like just 2 or 3 pages. So it was really difficult not to get sucked in myself and say, okay, just one more, because they're so short. So that's why I'm going to read you actually a couple. I know it's First Chapter Friday, but you're going to probably get like the first 4, because that really is only like 8 pages. So enough rambling. Let's start reading Beneath by Roland Smith. This is the prologue. It's called Down the Rabbit Hole. Exactly 1 year to the day after my brother Coop ditched me, I got a package in the mail. It came to the school, not our house. The secretary handed me the package with a warning that I was never to use the school as my personal address. I was going to tell her that I hadn't when I saw my name, Pat Meatloaf O'Toole, scrawled in Coop's familiar handwriting. Meatloaf is not my real middle name. I told her I would never do it again, grabbed the package, locked myself in a restroom stall, and tore open the box. Inside was a handheld digital voice recorder, a supply of memory sticks, and a note written on a greasy hamburger wrapper. Little bro Pat, just turn the recorder to play and I'll explain what you're supposed to do with this. Do not share with parents. This is just between you and me. Your big bro, Coop. I made sure the restroom was empty and switched on the recorder. Hey, Meatloaf. I know you're mad at me for splitting without so much as a goodbye or a note, but opportunity knocked. I'm not sure what Mom and Dad told you, but while you were at school, we had one of our discussions about my future. As usual, it was one-sided, a monologue, not a dialogue, and their plans for me did not include anything I was interested in doing. Big surprise. So I packed my things and walked out the door while it was still open. I would have called and explained, but you know my take on the whole phone thing. Then I was going to write you a letter, but the longer I waited, the longer the letter got in my head. Pretty soon it was too long to write. Know what I mean? So I bought a second digital voice recorder, exactly like the one I've been using in my travels, and figured you and I could stay in touch on the little memory sticks that store the recordings. And the truth is that I want to hear your voice, and I hope that you will still want to hear mine. So consider this a slow motion cell phone. You'll be able to transcribe all this onto one of those journals you're always scribbling in. Epistolary. Remember that? Now memorize this address. P.O. Box 1611, New York, New York, zip code 10011. This is where you can send the memory sticks when you figure out how to use the recorder. And it would be nice if you would respond soon so I know you got the recorder and that you're okay. Here's another address you need to know. P.O. Box 912 at the post office on Elm Street. That's your private mailing address in McLean. You pass the post office every day on your way to and from school, so it shouldn't be a problem for you to pop in and check the mail. The P.O. Box key is buried in the pot with the petunias Miss Flower planted in the backyard. I assume that Mom and Dad still haven't hired anyone to do any landscaping since the flowers were fired, and I'm certain you haven't done any of the yard work, so the key should still be there. Talk to you soon, little bro. Only Coop would think of something like this. That's how his mind works. But the recorder was a huge technological leap for him. I think that this is the first electronic gadget he has ever owned. The little recorder has a lot of functions. There's software with it too. I can edit the recordings, splice them together like I'm doing now, then transcribe them in my journal. A hybrid journal. a collaboration with my brother. The thumb switch on the side has 5 positions: play, fast forward, rewind, record, erase. Down the rabbit hole we go. Chapter 1, up top. Or maybe Section 1, up top. A little family history. For my eyes, I mean for my ears only, in order to practice with this recorder. I don't think I'll send this to Coop, but I might change my mind if I don't sound too stupid. My brother, John Cooper O'Toole, is 5 years older than me, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I have idolized Coop my entire life. From the day my baby blue eyes understood that the boy with the curly brown hair, green eyes, and idiotic grin always leaning over me was my brother. I'm definitely not sending this to Coop. Rewind. I can get rid of that last words, or fast forward, insert. I can insert things I forgot, or if I want to clarify. Or I can keep it even though it sounds stupid, which I think I'll do. Anyways, record. Here we go. Coop was not the child my parents expected. I wasn't either. But you don't get to pick your parents, and they don't get to pick you. My parents did pick each other before Coop came along, though, which is one of the unsolved mysteries of the universe. Mom is an astrophysicist and former astronaut. Dad is a molecular biologist and Nobel laureate. Mom is always looking up. Dad is always looking down. Neither of them looked at us much. Mom wanted girls. Dad didn't want kids at all. Here's how Coop put it. With their combined DNA, they expected filet mignon. When they opened the oven, they got 2 pans of meatloaf. Within months of Coop's abrupt departure, by mutual consent, my parents split up. Mom is dating an old man with 3 young daughters. Dad is dating a young woman with an old parrot. We all have little quirks, but Coop has more than most. I think that's because he was born during a lunar eclipse, December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2 weeks before he was supposed to pop out. Dad raced Mom to the hospital and got snagged by the worst traffic jam on the 495 Beltway in Virginia history. People simply stopped their cars in the middle of the highway to watch the sky. Mom was furious, but not at the motorist who decided to turn the highway into a parking lot. It was the timing. She wanted to see the eclipse just as badly as those who were blocking her. Instead, she was lying on the back seat of their brand new SUV in agony, trying to squeeze out her first child. A boy. Coop had a different take on his quirks. Prior to his birth, Mom went on 2 space shuttle missions. Coop believed that during the second mission, something happened. He always whispered those last 2 words. What happened was never explained. From the day Coop was born, he rarely slept at night. The pediatrician assured my parents that Coop would outgrow this behavior. The doctor was wrong. Mom and Dad both worked, so they hired a full-time nanny to take care of him at night, and a second full-time nanny to watch him sleep during the day. The nannies were sisters, identical twins, spinsters, Camilla and Cecilia Flores, who didn't speak 10 words of English between them. We called both of them Miss Flower because their name was the Spanish word for flowers. We suspected they switched shifts, covering for each other when necessary, sometimes working 24 hours in a row. It didn't matter to us because we couldn't tell them apart anyway. They were identical down to the moles on their upper right lips, with 3 black hairs growing out of them. They were the same person, split in 2. The Flowers taught Coop to flamenco dance when he was 3 years old. By the time I came along, he had switched to tap and never looked back. Coop and I used to watch YouTube clips of the great tappers like the Nicholas Brothers and Leonard Reed and Honey Coles and Bojangles and Fred Astaire. Coop was as good, if not better, than all of them. He sometimes tapped for me in the Flowers, but mostly he tapped by himself for himself. Several nights a week he'd drape his tap shoes around his neck, sneak out of the house and find a tunnel or a highway underpass and tap till dawn. I asked him one time why he tapped. "To keep my feet moving, little bro," he answered. "You're not going anywhere if you don't keep 'em moving." When I was 9 and Coop was 14, Mom and Dad let the Flowers go. It was like losing 2 mothers at the same time, and it turned out to be a big mistake because it left Coop and me on our own, but I'll get to that later. Back to Coop's quirks. He collects flashlights, hundreds of them, all from all over the world. He loves people but doesn't crave their company, sometimes staying in the house for weeks at a time. I guess I better explain. Old people, young people, rich people, poor people, white, black, Hispanic, Muslim, Christian, whatever, he makes no distinctions. To him, they are just people. None better, none worse than the other. I think people sense this in Coop because they are attracted to him like moths are attracted to light. I don't know why this is. Something in the way he moves? Pheromones? I've seen complete strangers cross a busy street to talk to him, but the conversations are a little one-sided. Coop will nod, shake his head, frown, smile, and say only enough to keep them talking. When they walk away, Coop knows all about them, but they know virtually nothing about Coop. He has never worn a watch. A minute, hour, day, or month are all the same to him. He has never sent or received an email. He does not know how to drive a car. He writes short letters to people he doesn't know on purple stationery in beautiful script and doesn't include a return address. He does not talk on the phone, ever. He slept virtually all the way through school and was late every day, but graduated with honors because he did his homework at night and turned in all of his assignments on time. He was accepted to every university my parents filled out the applications to, and he rejected all of them. He has no close friends, yet everyone is his friend. I thought that I was his best friend until he took off without telling me. I know that sounds whiny, but it hurt. I was really ticked off at him. It was worse than losing the flowers. I was tempted to send the recording back consisting of just 2 words with an exclamation point, but that idea lasted about 2 seconds. I was too happy to stay mad at him. Here are some of Coop's favorite things. Favorite activity, 3-way toss-up between tap dancing, reading, and writing. Favorite book, another toss-up, Dracula by Bram Stoker, written in 1897, A Journey to the Center of the Earth, written by Jules Verne in 1864. He must have read both of these books a dozen times, and he read them to me when I was 8, giving me nightmares for months, especially Dracula. Coop assured me that there were no such things as vampires. He said that the reason the novel had so much effect on me was because Stoker had chosen to write it in a style so realistic the story appeared to be fact. The technique is called epistolary, from the Latin word epistola, meaning letter. The author uses fictitious diaries, letters, and newspaper articles to tell the story, but the nightmares continued and the bats still creep me out. What does an 8-year-old know or care about epistolary novels? Just think what Stoker could have done with a digital voice recorder and email. This is what I'm doing here in this journal, stringing together bits and pieces of information to make a story, each bead in the necklace made from a different material. Memory beads, recorded beads, newspaper beads, letter beads. Coop got me hooked on keeping a journal. He gave me my first one and said I should keep a diary and never let anyone read it, including him. He said showing someone your diary was like offering someone a little slice of your soul. Too many slices meatloaf and pretty soon the plate is empty. No soul food left, little bro. Which reminds me, his favorite food is tuna fish sandwiches, and his favorite drink is water. His favorite quote is, "Listen to them, the children of the night, what music they make." Count Dracula said this to Jonathan Harker when the wolves howl outside the castle on Jonathan's first night there. His favorite music is anything with drums. His favorite smell is freshly turned dirt, which brings me to the Great Tunnel Disaster. If you want to know more about these interesting brothers and where Coop has gone and how Pat is going to try to attempt to get him out, you should totally get this book. You can find it at your library or local indie bookstore, or if it's not there, you can get it from the link in the description box. One other thing I want to say before we go, we were talking about epistolary novels that are told in letters. If you like that idea, there's another First Chapter Friday video called From Night Owl to Dogfish that you will just love about 2 girls at summer camp. It's like kind of a new twist on the Parent Trap movie and books. But definitely check that out, or just Google epistolary novels. I'll maybe put a few in the description box too if that style appeals to you. Okay, I will see you here again next week for another First Chapter Friday video. Happy reading! To continue reading Beneath by Roland Smith, grab a copy of this book from your school library, local indie bookstore, or from the link in the description box. Then make sure you check out the rest of the First Chapter Friday playlist. I have tons of great middle grade and YA stories waiting for you, one for each week of the year. This week's mystery quote says, "But the book she read changed her, word by word, idea by idea." Please like this video and subscribe so you can stay connected for more great First Chapter Friday videos and other videos you can use in your classroom. Happy reading!